Hello and welcome to the Gauntlet episode 78. This is Rich.
I'm Andrea.
I'm Lowell.
And holy crap, you guys, I'm Steve.
What?
Steve who?
Huh?
What?
Have we met?
I know, Steve Maines. Yeah, it's been a while.
Steve, welcome back. I am glad that your busy work schedule has allowed you to rejoin us. Unfortunately, Jason was pushed off the island. No, Jason decided to take a week off. And so we will carry on without him. So very happy to have you back on, Steve. We have not talked about Star Wars much at all.
I know. Thank God I'm here.
We'll go ahead and have you lead off by talking about, it says here, Call of Cthulhu?
Huh?
What?
So I'm back and I've gone native because I'm talking about a traditional game, you guys.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Very
so
traditional,
tradindle.
actually. If somehow people out there do not know what Call of Cthulhu is, it is the grizzled old man of Lovecraftian gaming. Came out in 81. It's been around for 35 years. And there's a new edition that got kickstarted a couple years ago and is finally out in stores, the 7th edition. It is Call of Cthulhu's percentile based. You roll 2d10 and it's interpreted as hundreds. It's crazy new modern technology, and fairly traditional for the most part. The sanity mechanics being the only major exception to that I can think of. They have not made much in the way of changes in the past 35 years, but this is probably the most changed, the most altered edition here. Call of Cthulhu has always had like attribute scores, like, okay, you have an intelligence of 12. And then also you have skills, which are percentile based. And sometimes you'd want to roll against your intelligence, in which case you multiply it by 5.
Okay.
So now they've just done that from the get-go. Your intelligence is, you roll 3d6, multiply by 5, done. Why that was not the case 35 years ago, I don't know. This has been a long time coming. It's a minor thing, but it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like there's no excuse for it not to have been this way all along. So it's good that they're making changes that are necessary and very obvious.
This is 7th time's the charm.
Yeah.
Right. as the old saying goes. They've implemented advantage and disadvantage dice, which you're probably used to from everything as far back as like, Over the Edge, all the way up to D&D 5th edition. It's pretty much what you'd expect from that. One thing that's always sort of baffled me about Call of Cthulhu and other games that have like followed in its footsteps have sometimes taken this particular page from its book, namely making luck a characteristic inherent to the character. Not like, oh, well, you rolled poorly and so, bad things are going to happen. But my character is a luckier person than your character. Just like in Lovecraft. Right, guys? Yeah. I don't know. But luck is now a spendable resource that you can manage. You can, if you got a skill of 40, you roll a 45, that's bad by 5 points. You can spend 5 luck and suddenly it's a success. I don't know. I only played one session, so I don't know how I feel about it.
Huh.
But it will, yeah, it will, it's one of those things that will definitely be very different in a long-term game, because you have to, that loss is semi-permanent. You can get it back, but it's a slow trickle.
Mm-hmm.
It's different between that and what I played, which was just a one-shot, where it's like, okay, trying not to die, spend such and such, and we're good. Right? Because there's no reason not to spend it all. It's a one-shot. I feel sort of the same way about, like, is it just luck in Monster of the Week?
Yeah, that was exactly where I was thinking was the luck in Monster of the Week.
Because in a one-shot, oh, hey, I succeeded at every roll today. Good news, guys. But in a longer campaign, that lasts the life of your character, basically. It's not quite to that extreme, because you do get it back. There's also something I need to see in play more. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, but it's called pushing. If one of your players makes a roll and they miss, then they can push the roll. If you can fictionally justify it, you can push the roll again, and if you miss the second time, the GM basically has license to, it's almost like a Powered by the Apocalypse hard move type thing. The consequences will be more dire than they would have been otherwise.
Cool. I dig that.
I like push your luck stuff.
It sounds nice in theory. I didn't see too much of it in play. I think we did that like twice or something. Overall, though, I like the book. It's a nice, attractive book. There's some really good advice for running like con games and that sort of thing. So overall, I like what I'm seeing. In practice, I need to see it. I need to see things a bit more to have a better feel for it. About a year and a half ago, we played and talked about on the podcast Delta Green. And I believe what I said at the time was that I'd always enjoyed playing Call of Cthulhu. and it was always a little disappointing. That's every session of Call of Cthulhu is like that for me. This was the first time for me running it, and ditto. I pretty much feel the same way. I had fun. I enjoyed it. But there was a not insignificant portion of the time I was sitting there just being like, I kind of wish this was powered by the apocalypse or whatever. Again, overall I had fun, but it definitely dragged toward the end. There was a combat where it's just like shit didn't quite go the way it felt like it should have. And after we started following the rules, it started dragging, which is kind of a bummer.
Was there anything else besides the combat? Because that's pretty task resolution. But any cool stuff that you wanted to talk about?
Yes, actually. So one thing is, I'm not commenting on the sanity system because we actually didn't use it. The scenario I was going off of, all the characters start off crazy, which is sort of the just baseline assumption of the thing. So I can't really comment on that. I did want to mention one thing, though. The last few months, we've been pretty regularly using the X card at the table.
Oh.
And I felt like that was a good idea for this scenario in particular. There were some things about the characters that would be potentially troublesome. Like, they would be remembering things about their past, and I wanted an out valve. Nobody used it. That tends to be the case. But we've also been using the O card. Have you guys used this before?
Mm-mm.
Talk about it. What's the O card?
Okay, so the O card, it's almost the opposite of the X card. So the X card is like, okay, a little too real for me. Can we back up and, maybe take a different route? The O card is, I love this, I want more of this. And it usually comes up in almost the same circumstances, right? If I'm hesitant about introducing something that I feel might be troublesome with some players, right, into the fiction, then they might hit the X card and be like, yeah, okay, let's back off. Or they might hit the O card and say like, yeah, I love it. Let's do this. I'm all in. I've seen it come up a few times. It's almost like it's a non-mechanical fan mail type of thing. It's instant, I like this feedback, which I think is really cool.
That is cool. That's really cool. I like that. It's a nice flip to the X card to give you the yin and the yang. That's great.
Right. I'm really happy with it. I think we first introduced it, like I'd heard of it, but we sort of introduced it almost as a joke the first time, and then it got used, and we're like, oh, no, I like this. This is very good.
Cool.
Yeah, especially when all that's required of using it is you draw an O on a note card and put it in the middle of the table. Done.
Awesome. Is there anything else about Call of Cthulhu you wanted to share?
I think that's it for now. We may revisit in the future, but for now, that's all.
Can I ask you, you've played Call of Cthulhu before with these changes? Do you go, oh, yeah, this feels like a new game to me, or is it pretty much the same dog?
It feels like a dog with a new collar.
Okay.
a jinglier collar. That's I don't mean to be too flippant here. It's right. The same dog for sure. Oh, it's been groomed nicely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's about all. It's definitely the same game.
Okay.
Andrea, did you have any questions or?
No, not really.
Have you ever played Call of Cthulhu, Andrea?
Oh yeah, I've played a lot. I played actually 7 before it came out.
Oh, cool. So what do you think about it, actually? It sounds like you've probably seen this in play a lot more than I have, actually.
Yeah, the pushing your luck thing. I don't know. Like, I guess, so this is, like, this game is older than I am.
Right.
So let me just put that on the table. So I haven't been part of a lot of these edition wars, but I feel like I'm coming, like, from this generation where I'm like, why are we giving players so many chances to succeed? It makes me so cranky. No, they're like, there's this trend, and I don't understand. You fail to roll, there are consequences. And I mean, granted, in our group, yeah, like if you whiff and you miss the troll, like depending on how poorly you did, like you may have just gotten the troll's attention. Congratulations. So, or you've tripped, or there's things that we kind of work into the fiction that isn't just you missed hitting. Because that's boring and no one wants that. So we kind of do that even with our super trad games. But yeah, I don't understand. I don't get it. It's the baby gamer. Like this is my edition war, I guess.
You like there being consequences for all the rolls, or you like a bunny slope?
It's like it's that like even though I'm part of the I'm a millennial all the way. At the same time, I'm like, why are we coddling the player? What is with the coddling? They could take a failure. Like, I play with these young kids, and they're just like, well, if I fail, I can just roll again, right? I'm like, no. I mean, yeah, maybe eventually, but first, you're going to go to the principal's office because you've just upset your teacher. because you tried to talk your way out of a homework assignment. Go. Scurry along. And they get very butthurt about it. No, I guess I'm used to playing the old school, the OSR and the trad games where it's like, you failed, your character died. GNC, move on. TPK.
Especially for a horror game.
I'm just throwing out acronyms now.
Did you say
BRB,
GNC
ASAP.
in there somewhere?
Yeah, GNC, generate new character.
Oh, okay.
Not nice. You taught me one. That's cool.
Not like, bro, I gotta bulk up.
Yeah.
Where did I go?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I smell vitamins.
What? I don't know. You gym rats, I have no idea what's happening right now. But no, so I appreciate that, but it's sort of this series of, this is a trend I've seen in several games. I'm like, why? Why are you making this so easy for the players to succeed? And no, you shouldn't, it shouldn't be hard. You shouldn't punish your players, but at the same time, it's not like, oh, you did your best, honey. Here, have another die.
Nice.
I have strong feelings.
Well, I'm glad I asked.
It was great. That was good. Andrea. Thanks for your contribution there. That's
We all know I'm not very fair to my players, so.
Right.
All right. Let us move on. I'm going to talk about something I've talked about quite a bit, but I'm going to talk about a new angle into it so that you're not totally bored by me talking about masks. I've talked quite a bit about masks, which I ran for the Intercontinental Group of Awesome, and it was, as you would expect, awesome. But there were a few rules that we didn't necessarily engage in often, because if you look on the character sheet for masks, and you should, there are quite a few little playbook-specific group-related moves that Intercontinental Group of Awesome didn't necessarily engage in frequently. Those were as they are phrased, when you share a triumphant celebration with someone, and when you share a vulnerability or weakness with someone. Now, there are a bunch of moves, and we hit those fictional triggers several times, but didn't necessarily remember to engage the move. But I'm now playing masks with my Paramount group on Saturday afternoons, and they are very engaged in the rules, and they want to try out all the bits. So they're definitely like, okay, I'm angling for this thing. We just did the cool thing, and now I'm sharing celebration. I want to do this thing. Let me hit this move. And it's been kind of cool. I don't necessarily think we were missing out with the Intercontinental Group of Awesome, but I like how the fiction can create more ties between the PCs. It does cause some shifting of labels, which is a major part of masks, where, it's the superhero teen, young adult / teen superhero team game using the PBTA system, and your labels, which are your stats, get shifted around based on your interactions and how people tell you about yourself. Those two pieces, sharing our vulnerability, is a very big part for giving influence and allowing labels to be shifted. Seeing that rule set being specifically engaged and how they affect the fiction and how they jumble around some of the the mechanical bits on everybody's sheets. The only thing, and this is something I see in Urban Shadows to a degree as well, but it's exacerbated with masks, in my opinion, is if you happen to do that near the end of the session, holy crap. Because if you do a team celebration where during the team celebration someone might share a vulnerability, you fire off all of these moves that are shifting labels and moving around influence. Then you get to the end of session, which is, how do you feel about the team? Which is shifting labels and moving around influence. And so it gets very accounting. It becomes, it goes from PBTA, which is this really light, loose system as I kind of envision it in my uber mind of this is what PBTA is, to, okay, now we move this one up and this one down. Now we check, do you have influence? Oh, you do have influence. So that means you move this one up and this one down, but you just moved that one up because this other person moved it up. Oh, okay, well then let's move it down. No, let's not move it up. It moves out of that. This is fictionally appropriate and a reflection of what's going on in the story to, and we got to move these numbers around because that's what the move says. And finding that balance has been a challenge. There are times where I just want to go, let's skip this. Like, you've already moved your labels around 4 times. Like, it doesn't even make sense anymore. How do you play that? That, like, in the space of 5 minutes, you went from +1 danger to -1 danger. What does that mean? Thoughts?
So this is something that isn't really an issue if you ignore those mechanics you guys hadn't really been engaging. It's not really a thing, not really an issue.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not really a thing. I mean, it can be a thing sometimes because if you give someone influence and then they already have influence, then you shift their labels, and you go into another move and it causes them to shift their labels. You can get your labels shifted like back to back to back, regardless. Yeah. Okay. Looks like you got something to say.
So, I mean, could you just, I think this is what you were saying. Couldn't you just make the celebration another kind of end of session move? And maybe make those things into alternate versions of end of session?
Yeah, absolutely. You could, and I think that's a wise way to go. Or just try to make sure that, like, if you plan, quote unquote, plan out your game, but try not to engage that near the end of your session, I think is probably the best way to go. Because they're cool rules, and I like them. It's just, if they happen near the end, and then you engage the end of session mechanics, it gets tedious. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I've got to throw in my roses and thorns. So you're talking like 40 minutes of after work. It's like, I might as well be playing Burning Wheel, guys. I mean,
or getting paid.
Well, right?
Yeah.
I think the reason why we kept missing it with the awesome group is because, like, you have to stop down from the fiction, right? Like, you're having this really tender moment between characters. Someone has just confessed, they're so afraid because they've screwed up and they don't know how they'll make it better. And now we have to jump out of character and do accounting. Yeah. And that really, it's kind of obnoxious. And so that's kind of why I think we didn't hit it very often, because we were just into our characters.
I get you. And I hesitate to say I prefer it, because I think that some interesting things have resulted from this because we're just in our second session. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Masks High School, we played like 13, 14 sessions all told. But I just, that was an interesting observation I had from seeing those rules in play. And I really think the timing of when it happens in the session affects my opinion of it, because the first session, it happened really early on and it was kind of cool. The second session, it happened about 2/3 of the way in, and so it was one of those, we do a thing, now we have the aftermath, which is fun, let's play through that. That's the last couple panels of a really good issue of a comic. And now we got to do this other thing where you reflect on your character, which I at least appreciate that end of session, like, you don't have to then jump back into the fiction. That's the part. And, Lowell, we've had this conversation a billion times. Yeah, the whole jump in and jump out of fiction. Rich's game, his brain does not shift gears well. So that's luckily I'm the GM, so it doesn't impact me as much.
But did the players call for that? I think actually that's a really interesting difference, is how much it's the players going, we want to do this. And seeing how that gets drawn out, and whether over time you see them going, I don't want to call for that because that takes us out of it, seeing how that evolves.
You guys know what the after session outside the fiction talk needs to be?
What's that?
It's the letters page.
Oh, that's a deep framing device.
What?
People are writing in to say how excited they are that, character A is so risky now, or whatever thing that you're using to, shift stats around now. You just frame it in the form of a letter from a fans, and then that gives you as the GM an excuse to write back and use the word Excelsior.
That's cute. Letters. The letters column at the end of older comics is where people would write physical letters to the offices of these comic book publishers, to the editors of that comic book, and they would answer questions.
Oh,
that's what it means.
See you next month, true believers.
Indeed.
Aww.
It's adorable.
It was a big
This
thing.
is really adorable. Rich, this needs to happen next time we play Masks.
It does. It totally does. We need to try that framing device. That's a great idea, Steve. I love that.
You gotta let me know how it goes.
But Lowell, I like your point about, are the players engaging that move? Because I'm in the role of the GM, because Brendan doesn't like MC. I'm in the role of the GM, and so I don't have to, like, I'm always necessarily in and out of the fiction.
Yeah.
So I don't have to necessarily let that impact my enjoyment. I should be okay. And I have an interesting approach. Like, when I'm the player mode, I really want to drop behind the eyes. But if I'm the MC, I feel a lot looser. If I'm the GM, I'm a lot looser about, okay, let's drop in, let's drop out, let's see how you want to take that fictional flow. And so, like, my quote-unquote complaint is, like, if I were playing, this would drive me wacky. But they seem to like it. And so we're just going to keep rolling with it and see how it goes.
It's actually one of the things I think is a disadvantage to running one-shots or two-shots online is, as an MC or a GM, you are kind of hard pushing on getting the moves and getting results, and you don't have as much time to let the game breathe and do as you like, and let the players call things. You kind of have to be pushing harder on that.
It's really astute observation. All right, Andrea. That was my Jason. What do you think? Is that a good?
It's not bad.
Tell us about Epyllion. We've talked about it before, but you just jumped in to play it.
Baby dragons.
Yeah,
so
baby dragons.
Many baby dragons. The first time somebody pitched Epyllion at me, they basically described it as My Little Pony, but with baby dragons. And I was like, nah. Like, I don't have children. I'm, like, good not submerging myself in things aimed at 3-year-olds. Like, I loved My Little Ponies growing up, don't get me wrong. But, like, I've seen glimpses of the current cartoon, and I'm, like, a little bit horrified. So
I think you're going to alienate all of our brony listeners, you know.
Now that you've pointed out, they'll feel alienated.
New My Little Pony is aimed at all sorts of audiences, and you don't have to be a child to enjoy it.
Well, so to be fair, it was like...
That's actually what I've heard. I'm just making fun of the people.
It was like 10 minutes of one episode, and it was just so incredibly small child. And I was just like, this is not aimed at me. So that was pitched at me, and I was like, no, I think I'm good. But he was like, please. And I said, fine. And we started playing it, and because we're adults and we're not small children, we increased, like, the age target, the target audience, and it turned out really, really good and super dark, which I sort of love. But it's actually a phenomenal game. Mm-hmm. It really is. Like, just based on the pitch alone, like, I've tried to pitch it at other people, and unfortunately I fall into the same trap, and I'm like, but no, it's really good. Don't pretend I didn't pitch it that way. Because you play baby dragons.
That's how I feel when I'm trying to sell somebody on Monster Hearts and I mention Twilight. I'm like,
no, that was a mistake. I take it back.
Let's back up.
But the My Little Pony aspect comes from, like, it's the friendship is magic, quote unquote. Trademark here. That whole concept, because it's actually mechanically supported in this game in a really cool way. Because whenever one of the little baby dragons does something that your baby dragon approves of, you each have your little keywords. And, like, for this game, mine's cooperation, and you have to interpret what that means to you. So I'm playing a daredevil, so for me, that's you don't want to go on adventures by yourself. You always want to take friends with you, because adventuring is more fun with friends. So whenever another little baby dragon includes me on some sort of adventure or helps me have an adventure, like, I give them a token. And that token is used to fuel their magical powers. So it literally is friendship is magic, and it's awesome. One of the mechanics I'm really excited to try out in a campaign setting is you don't level up, you grow up. And so as you grow up, your magic becomes much more focused. So you don't have access to the different types of magic anymore, but you become more powerful. And I'm really interested in exploring that. I think it'll be fun. Also, baby dragons.
Nice.
Are you guys going to be doing that as a long term then?
Yeah, this made me feel like the specialist snowflake ever. I was specifically requested to play with a friend and his family. Who the child is not a small child, she's a teenage child. So I'm like, okay, I can make this work.
Nice.
Yeah, good to be loved.
It is good to be loved.
Refresh my memory. What's the base system on Epyllion?
Apocalypse Engine.
Okay.
I went super indie this week.
Love you roll your eyes there when you said that. That was great.
Yeah.
How much did you guys get into the darkness side of things? There's some creepy stuff in there.
There is some pretty creepy stuff. But again, that's the cool thing about this game is, like, you could totally play this with a bunch of small children of any gender. Or you could totally play this with, like, big kids and adults and totally just make it really super dark.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Anything else you want to share about Epyllion?
No.
Lowell, bring us home by talking about King in Yellow.
Yes, do that.
Last Friday was International Pelgrane Day, as they called it, because it was the 10th anniversary of them releasing Gumshoe. And I was able to get in on a play of a new game with Robin Laws running online. So that was super cool. And this was him showing us the King in Yellow RPG. And the concept of the King in Yellow comes from the work of a guy named Robert Chambers. And over the time, basically through the old writers in the Lovecraftian circle, and also in the Call of Cthulhu RPG, that sort of King in Yellow figure has gotten associated with Hastur and mixed up with Cthulhu mythos. But it's his whole separate thing. It has nothing to do with the Cthulhu mythos.
Yeah, he predated Lovecraft. He was an influence on Lovecraft.
Right.
And Lovecraft sort of tried to incorporate a lot of his stuff into what he was doing.
Yeah, and so this attempts to be the Robert Chambers RPG. And so Chambers' big thing is sort of metafiction, which is works that talk about fiction and expose the fiction. And so it's like Borges and Philip K. Dick plays with reality. When Grant Morrison wrote Animal Man, there were all these issues where Animal Man realized he was in a comic book, and then he talked to the writer and stuff. And if you've seen In the Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter, it's all of that. I would say actually In the Mouth of Madness is the King in Yellow movie, because the King in Yellow is about a play that infects the world. And so I love that. I love metafiction stuff. I love reality commenting stuff. And what they're doing is a super light system with that. They're actually doing a bunch of different settings. Each one will be in a separate book with a different art style covering a different era. And then that'll all go in a slipcase. The hook on top of that is that you can actually play the same characters across those different eras. I don't know how that works, but I like the idea that you could play an archetypal character moving across. It's a little bit like Rich, when you did that play-by-post game you're talking about moving through the realities, and I run that Ocean Center interface where characters are the same people across them. So
nice.
I'm really looking forward to that. Here's the thing. Now I need to say, Steve, I think the last time you and I were on the podcast together, we talked about Gumshoe.
Yes, Knights Black Agents in that case.
Yeah. I love Gumshoe, theoretically. I bought everything for Gumshoe. I pre-ordered nearly everything for Gumshoe. It, however, has been terrible for face-to-face groups here. With my groups, they have not dug it at all and had some very bad sessions. And I've written about that on the blog and written about some ideas of why I don't like that. I also think running mysteries online is tougher than it is face-to-face. There are a bunch of mechanical bits with Gumshoe, but I theoretically like it because I love mystery games.
I may have misheard or misunderstood. So it sounded like you were saying that you were having an issue running Gumshoe with your face-to-face group, right? That the face-to-face group does not dig it?
The several times that I ran Gumshoe face-to-face, it went over like a lead balloon.
Okay. But then you were saying that it's harder to run mysteries online?
And I say that the reason I haven't run Gumshoe online is I think running mysteries online is really tough.
Gotcha.
Because people don't hear as much, because the time is compressed, people aren't picking up on your facial cues and things like that, and I can't tell what people have gotten or not gotten. So I think it's harder running mysteries online.
So basically you're sort of screwed one way or another.
I kind of think so.
Okay.
But isn't that supposed to be the point of Gumshoe? Isn't that supposed to be so easy that even an Andrea can solve a mystery in it? I mean, the times I've had it run for me have all solely been online. The GM has been very gracious about making sure we caught all the clues. And if for some reason there was a misunderstanding, he'd be like, do you guys remember us talking about this? Or he'd be like, so if anybody has architecture, they could spend it. If anyone has first aid, they could spend it.
I think that's what you do, that calling out, okay, if you have this skill, you can spend it. I think you do that early on. But really, Gumshoe is the clues that you find are the clues that move you to the next scene. Mm-hmm. Or you go to the next place. Those are called the core clues. And then everything else is, I mean, the players are going to go to find it or ask about it or not. And if they haven't bothered to do that legwork, by the time they get to the final place, they may not know how to solve the problem. They may not know how to put the thing down. They may not know how to fix things, or they may have misinformation. In the case of Nice Black Agents, they may not know how to deal with the vampires and they may just get killed. I think there are a couple of levels to that. I think you can run Gumshoe as a pretty easy mystery, but I think you can also tune it to be more difficult. But what I played is like Gumshoe Express, okay? This King in Yellow game, this is a very, 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 very early version, but Steve, one of the problems that we talked about with Nice Black Agents was, 24 different investigative skills in 3 different schemas, plus, a dozen and a half abilities. My character sheet had 4 investigative skills, and it had a list of 9 general abilities. And I think that was great. I really liked it because with the investigative skills, rather than sort of tracking each one with a number, I had 2 pushes. So during the game, I could have pushed a skill to try something extra with it twice or 2 different ones once. And because you've got that smaller list of standard abilities, those are the risky abilities that you roll a d6 and you say whether you're spending points from that skill before you roll. When a hugely complicated architecture of seriously complex skills like Nice Black Agents you've got all these mechanics and bennies and all these things and this list and stuff like, and it all comes down to rolling a d6.
Yeah.
That's what my players didn't like. When you simplify that down, you have a very short list of abilities. It takes some weight off of that. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll roll a d6. I'll spend a couple points and I'll roll. And so it didn't feel like it was all that resting on a kind of a goofy mechanic. Apparently, this is also the way they're approaching their new Trail of Cthulhu one-on-one module. That's essentially a 2-player Trail of Cthulhu thing that's coming out.
Huh, okay.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Apparently, they have 3 different characters you can play, and it's just a set story for people to try out Trail of Cthulhu. Anyway, this adventure, King in Yellow, set in classic turn-of-the-century France. Robin Laws is a very good GM. He keeps a straight, even pace. He kept things moving. He made good use of sort of that weird sets of imagery. He had us say a few things about what our characters had seen that was strange. And then he worked that into the story very well. And we would do something and something would change. Like we were talking to an NPC and then somebody asked a different question and the NPC answered differently. And the scene sort of shifted. He did a very good job of managing that. Really well done. He doesn't do too many funny voices, which is that's maybe a knock against him.
You said it was in France. Did he do some French accents?
Vaguely, slightly. He didn't go full bore.
Okay.
I think if Rich had been doing, we would have had a full on French waiter at the thing.
You don't need to resort to the waiter when you're in Paris.
True. It's an early version of this game, so I can't judge, and that this might change between now and then. If it stays simple, I'll buy it again. I like Gumshoe. He ran for 6 players, which, that's hard, but he managed it. I want to see how they're going to move the characters through the different frames with this game. I'm really super curious about that, and so I'm kind of excited.
I'm a big fan of Robert W. Chambers, and combine that with feeling like I want to give Gumshoe another shot, and also combined with my proclivity for simpler rules. That actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Even just in the book that Chambers wrote called The King in Yellow, it's short stories, and they all take place in, or at least some of them have very noticeably different worlds. So it would take some doing to try and he was. In some of those, he was just straight up writing sci-fi, basically. Like, this story takes place in the far-off future of the 1920s. And with, that one had like suicide chambers and weird stuff like that. I don't know. Anyway, it would be interesting to see. Any very vague ETA on a release or a Kickstarter or anything?
I heard 2017, and that's it. Okay. That's pretty vague.
So. All right. That is what I asked for. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anything else about King of Yellow?
No.
All right. Well, let's take a break and hear from Jason about our sponsor.
Hey listeners, it's Jason. I just want to remind you real quickly that this episode of the Gauntlet Podcast is being sponsored by Nocturnal Media. I have a couple of things for you this week. First, right now Nocturnal is in the middle of a Kickstarter campaign for a new game called Upwind. So here's the short description from the Kickstarter website. Imagine Bakshi's classic animated film Wizards has a head-on collision with Disney's Treasure Planet, and the resulting fire is put out with a whole lot of Studio Ghibli's Castle in the Sky. That, in an unexpected animated mashup, is Upwind. Upwind is a narrative-style RPG set in a strange alternate world of floating island nations, flying sailing ships, long-lost technology, wild elemental powers, looming war, and forgotten legacies. Upwind is powered by the Q system, an original stakes-based playing card-driven mechanic that gives every encounter consequences with meaningful, narrative-building outcomes. With its unique bidding rules, Upwind plays as fast as you can tell your story. If that sounds cool to you, go check out their Kickstarter. We are going to include a link to that in our show notes. As of the moment of this recording, there are 12 days left in the campaign, which means there are going to be about 10 days left by the time this episode releases. So go check that out if that sounds cool to you. The other nocturnal news I want to tell you about is, so we on the Gauntlet Podcast have been really big advocates and champions of a little game called The Final Girl. We know many of you got The Final Girl when you were able to, finally. You got PDFs of it, you've checked it out, you've played it. Like us, you have loved it. I'm super happy to tell you, and I think we're the only people who have this information right now, so it's kind of a little exclusive for you guys, that Nocturnal is going to be publishing a second edition of The Final Girl. The details are still a little sketchy. They're getting it worked out, but just a little heads up so you know that The Final Girl will be coming to Kickstarter in 2017. So there you have it, a little bit of a sneak peek information for you. So Nocturnal's awesome. They're clearly fans of the show, right? So they support us. Please go support them. We'll have a link to their website in the show notes.
It's Giving Me Life. I'll kick it off this time. What's giving me life is preparing for Dr. Tom the Frog Season 3, which is now going to be part of the Gauntlet Network, unlocked by one of the Patreon goals that we'd set. So pretty excited and happy for that. I'll tell you, this season, like the production stepped up. We got brand new art from Alex Prinz, who did the original logo for Dr. Tom the Frog. This one's even shinier and even better. I've shown a couple previews around. People on the Slack channel have seen it. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
We've got a new animation intro that's in production right now. I've jumped over to Free Music Archive to get us a new intro song, and I'm negotiating on that. There is a new virtual set. My good buddy from Play by Post, Scott White, he helped me design that. He actually used a software engine to create this sucker. So Dr. Tom the Frog will be in a new virtual set. So cool. It looks very Space Ghost Coast to Coasty. It's kind of awesome. And I've even been training with Jay Foster of 66, who's been showing me tips and tricks on Open Broadcaster software so that we can do the picture-in-picture. I'm the production assistant monkey for Dr. Tom the Frog, so I have to do all the work behind the scenes. He's just a talent, and great talent that he is, but, I do all the other work. Mm-hmm. Got more work to do. The writing team is on board. At least most of them have already responded positively. We're talking about some ideas. May even be adding a new segment to the show, tease it out just a little bit, but we want to make sure that that's ready for prime time, so it will be coming soon. I'm super, super excited about Dr. Tom the Frog show.
Is he doing like an observational, like a fly on the wall segment?
Ooh, that thing, we may have to throw that in the hopper. That's a touche.
Oh, God. Oh, if Lowell...
You didn't even see it coming.
If Lowell hadn't reacted, I wouldn't have even noticed that. But now that he did, I think somebody punched me in the gut.
It's like a shiv, like a little shiv in your ribs. A little punch. Yeah, so it's gonna be pretty fantastic.
Can we get a very vague ETA on this?
I would say in weeks, just
all
a
right,
few
cool.
weeks. We will have it out before Thanksgiving is my goal.
Okay, cool.
To have a new episode out before Thanksgiving. Andrea, what's giving you life?
The same people who put together the Long Con sent me an invitation to a Halloween party in the mail. And when I went to RSVP, they were like, do you like games? And I was like, why, yes, I do like games. And they're like, awesome. Please fill out this character sheet for your character at the Halloween party.
Oh.
So it's more like a Halloween LARP. You play, from what I can tell, basically legendary figures or gods or something in that term or something in that tone, because their questions were like, what do mortals call you? What weaknesses do mortals use to fend you off? Those kinds of things. But from what I understand, they're going to give you a list of problems based on your responses, and you have to try to solve them before the end of the night. So my only Halloween costume is a pirate costume, Pirate Wench. So I'm going as Thunder Mary.
Ooh.
She rescued her prince from a tower, and then they went off and became sky pirates. So she calls down storms, and that heralds her coming, and it's going to be really cool.
Awesome.
I'm really excited.
Sounds cool. I like it. I like it a lot. Lowell, what is giving you life?
Because I'm running a bunch of superhero stuff right now, I re-upped my subscription to Marvel Unlimited. I have a well-used hand-me-down iPad, so I'm using that to read it. I turned it off before because I had a bunch of other stuff I was doing, but I've forgotten just what a pleasure it is to browse through old stuff, read, 5 years of X-Men in one sitting, or try and piece together what actually happened in, the Skrull invasion. They've got all kinds of stuff for different events. Like you can read the Secret Wars, or you can read Civil War, or you can follow a particular writer, or you can follow a particular character. It's really good. Really fun. There's some gaps in it. Like they don't have all the old Defenders that I want. And like New Mutants, there's some weird gaps in that. But I can also just look at the list and go, I have no idea what this series is, and just read it and see, okay, this is not something I want to read anymore, and then move on to something else and not feel like I've lost money. It's cool. Super cool.
What's the pricing on that?
So it is, I think, $60 for a full year, but if you watch, you can get it significantly cheaper than that. Yeah, they often have sales, and if you're signing it for the first time, you can get a discount. So I'd say it's worth it. I mean, we live in the golden age of digital media, quite frankly.
Yeah,
between this and Spotify, and
that's a really good price, even at $60.
Yeah, you'll never catch up. The new books are from 6 months ago, but if you're not buying comics, they're new to you.
It's true. It's true. So, hey, Steve, what's giving you life?
What is giving me life this week is Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot's a series on USA that that friends got me into. It's about a very skilled hacker who gets sort of drawn into a group of hackers, the leader of which has very big plans. And I don't want to get much more specific than that because there be dragons in the form of spoilers. It's got Christian Slater in it. Christian Slater is the leader of the hacker group. Wears a little thing on his shirt that says Mr. Robot. That's the name. Like hacking, it did not involve me when I first heard about the thing. But once I started watching the show, I'm like, well, you guys aren't going to bed. We got to finish watching this. And there was an episode about 8 or 9 episodes into the first season where it ended. And it was just 3 people, just all of us looking around the room going, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? And then we looked at the time and it was too late. We had to get up and go to work. It's that kind of show. It keeps you involved and then, sort of surprises you. And then we watched the second season. Second season's great. I don't want to get too much into it, but there is one episode that starts off with a character in a coma or hallucinating or dreaming or something like that. It's clear that that's happening. And this character's just imagining themselves in, because of how old they are, their sort of childhood, how they imagined, things would go if life were going fine. How that represents itself is basically they're imagining themselves in a late 80s, early 90s sitcom, to the point where there are Full House font credits coming up for the show, for Mr. Robot, the actual credits. And so it's showing you the actors in the context of if they were in Full House or Perfect Strangers or, whatever. And there's this great moment where there's a character who is, they show her very quickly, and she's just shown in the credits mourning for a dead parent. That's already happened in the show. That's not really a spoiler. Mourning for a dead parent and just like mascara running down face. But it's a sitcom intro, so she, in the reality of this, the insane reality of the show, just sort of turns around and tries to make, smug sitcom intro face at the camera and can't manage it. Wow. Oh, and then Alf shows up. It's a great show. It's not nearly as wacky as I'm making it sound out. It's actually very serious 95% of the time, but it's really well done. We finished the second season, and then I noticed, oh no, that came out this year. I have to wait another year before we can watch another season. It's a show that makes me feel like that, which is a high recommendation. Mr. Robot's pretty great.
I'm glad to hear it sustains itself. I've only watched the first episode.
Yes.
I will follow up on that.
Yeah, you should.
All right, listeners, that is our show. If you want to follow us, you can head on to gauntlet-rpg.com. That's where you can find out about other shows on the network. You can even take a look at our Patreon. Also, check out, that is where our calendar is for gaming. Previously, it was Meetup, but now you do need to go to the Gauntlet RPG website, and that's where we have our calendar, and everything's linked in there. You can find that out. Also, follow our communities on Google+. That is the Gauntlet, as well as Gauntlet Hangouts. Gauntlet Hangouts is our sister community to all of the online gaming that we do. You want to come play with us? That's how you do it. Andrea, thank you so much. How can people find you?
Thank you, Rich. I am at Ivory Thorns on the Google+.
All right. And Lowell, thank you so much. How can people find you?
Blog at Age of Ravens. And also, I'm running Thursdays now for the Gauntlet Hangouts.
That's right. TGI Thursday.
Like the way you said that, like the way you dragged that out for some reason.
It was dramatic. And also, I started to say Friday, which was incorrect. And so excited to bring you back into the fold. Steve, how can people find you now?
You can't.
Okay.
Oh.
Seriously? You're on the Google Plus at least.
Technically, it's been like a month since I checked it.
Okay, well then, you can't really find it. You got to go to Texas and look hard. Anyway, thanks everybody for coming on, and listeners, thank you.
Thanks.